All right, so our learning target today is I can graph a linear equation. So before we get started though, I want to review the coordinate plane with you that you learned in 6th grade. Just to make sure you guys know how to graph points on all 4 quadrants. Okay, so let's go ahead and set this up. Okay, so we're just going to set up a generic little coordinate plane here so that we can talk about it. I would say like 12 to 14 by 12 to 14. You just want to be able to go 6 spaces in each direction. Okay. Now, for the coordinate plane, we tend to live here in that first quadrant because this is the most applicable to real life. So all of the proportional stuff that we've been doing, proportionality has all been done in this quadrant. It's all been positive. But we're actually going to dive into the other quadrants today. So let me put a scale on this. And if for some reason I don't put a scale on a graph, I am just assuming that each square is 1. And sometimes I don't bother to put the scale because it's just too much work. So quickly, before we get into plotting points, I want to make sure that you guys know what's happening here. I think you're good though. I think everyone knows that this point right here where it's 0, 0, this is called the origin. Okay. This whole thing right here is called a coordinate plane. It is also sometimes called the Cartesian plane, but for the purposes of this class, we'll just call it the coordinate plane. Okay. And now we're going to name all those quadrants too. This first one is obviously quadrant 1. Yes, ma'am. What was that? It doesn't have to be exact. As long as you have basically 6 points in each direction, you'll be fine. So the one that we're the most used to using is quadrant 1. Okay, quadrant 1. That's just because we tend to mostly deal with those positive numbers in real life. And then we go counterclockwise. Okay, so then we have quadrant 2. Quad meaning 4 because there's 4 of these. So quadrant 2. And then down here in the bottom left is quadrant 3. And then this last quadrant is quadrant 4. If you don't like Roman numerals, you can just call them 1, 2, 3, and 4 with the numbers if you want. But this is what the Roman numerals look like for 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I know you guys are good with this, but I'm just going to point it out. We have our x-axis here, and we have our y-axis here. And if you think about it, this is a horizontal number line, basically, if you ignore the y-axis. Then your y-axis is basically a vertical number line. Okay, you have the positives up, negatives down. And so now let's take a look at each quadrant. In quadrant 1, both your x values and your y values are positive. So you're always going to be plotting points in this quadrant that are positive for their x and positive for their y. Positive and positive is going to be living in that first quadrant. Then if you look at the second quadrant, your x is negative in this quadrant and your y is positive. So all the points that you graph in the second quadrant are going to be negative for the x and positive for the y. And then quadrant 3, both your x is negative and your y is negative. So if you're having a really bad day, we can say you're in quadrant 3. Negative, negative. And then quadrant 4, your x will be positive, your y will be negative. So your x is positive and your y is negative. Okay. So now that we've kind of just laid out the whole coordinate plane, let's just practice putting some points on it. And we'll talk about Sally. Sally's been on our board all year, and I'm going to explain Sally to you so that you guys don't make the same mistakes that Sally makes. You're welcome. Okay, so we're going to be graphing all of these points. Now, let's talk about Sally for a second. Those of you that are at home listening, you're not going to be able to see what I'm doing, but I can show you when you get back. Okay, here's Sally. And when you're graphing points, you can think about Sally. We're going to have this be Sally's ladder, okay? The way that you're supposed to do it is you're supposed to first go to the right or to the left for your x point. And Sally has her ladder with her. So she goes to the right or to the left to plot a point, and then she goes up the ladder to plot her y point. But Sally made a mistake, and she died. She got her y and her x mixed up. So here she is on this at the origin, because you always start at the origin. She did her y first, so she climbed her ladder, and then she's supposed to plot an x point over here, but she can't do that, so she fell down and died. Okay? So the moral of the story is don't be like Sally. Make sure that you go to the left or right, and then climb up or down your ladder. Okay? Because if you try to go up your ladder first and then go over, the ladder is not going to be under your feet for very long. Okay? And if you, another visual picture for you too, do you know that those really old school libraries that have like the ladders that slide and you go up the ladders? It's like that. If you want to get a book from over here, you slide to the left or to the right first, and then you go up your ladder. Same thing, okay? For your x-axis, you're going to slide to the left or to the right first, and then you're going to go up or down your ladder. Okay, so don't be like Sally. Make sure you do your y's and then your x's. So we'll leave her up there as a reminder. All right, so I'm going to graph a couple of these with you, and then I'll cut you loose to do so the rest on your own. But first of all, P, your x value is -1. So making sure to go to the left or right first, -1. My y value is 4, so then I'm going to go up to 4, and I'm going to put point. And this is P, so I'm going to name it. My next point, My x is 2. Oh, you guys can't see that. There you go. My x is 2, so I go to the right 2 spaces, and then my y is -2. And this is q. Okay. So go through and see if you can plot all those points. All right, so I'm going to throw the rest of my points up here so that you can see and just make sure that you plotted them correctly. Whenever you have like a 0 in the x, then you don't go left or right, you just go straight down. All right, any questions about that? Are your points all in the right spot? Here, let me zoom in so you can see it. All right. Okay, so we're going to move on then, if you guys are good with that. You guys learned this in 6th grade, right? Yeah. Fabulous. Okay, let's move on then. I just want to explain to you what a linear equation is, because that's what we're going to be spending our time on. I love linear equations. They're so great. Okay. Linear equation. So we're just going to write the definition for a linear equation just so that we know what we're working with here. Okay, so first of all, you should know that the solutions to a linear equation are ordered pairs. Oh, I should say also the solutions of a linear equation with 2 variables, because that's different than one that has just 1 variable. With 2 variables. Are ordered pairs. Okay? And here's the other point that I really want you to have down here, is that those ordered pairs, when you graph them, they form a line. Okay, so when the ordered pairs form a line, the equation is called a linear equation. So linear is line, a linear equation. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to show you now how to graph linear equations. And we are going to be cutting it close on time, so just hang in there with me while we at least get one example in so that you know how to do your homework, okay? If you didn't finish writing this equation down, it is okay. I can show you at the end of class, okay? Or sorry, not the equation, the definition for that. Okay. So let me do at least one example where you are going to be graphing a linear equation. Oh, thank you. So we're going to graph the equation y is equal to 2x plus 1. Okay. So what we're going to do for this is we're going to create like a little chart here. Another way to describe the x is the input. It's what we put into the equation. And we're going to be plugging it into this portion right here to see what we get out for our y. Okay. And then our output, which is also known as our y, we're going to put that in. And then after you have done your input and your output, you're going to get an ordered pair. And then we're going to graph those ordered pairs to make a line. Okay. So for my input, I'm going to just pick 3 things. I try to do 1 negative, 1 0, and a positive number, just so that I can see what the graph kind of is looking like. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to plug it in to my equation basically and find out what I get out. So I'm putting in my x, so this will be 2 times negative 1 plus 1. And then when I simplify this, this is negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. So my input, my x is negative 1, my output is negative 1, so my ordered pair is a negative 1, negative 1. I'm going to do the same thing for 0. So this is 0 plus 1 is 1. So my second ordered pair here is 0 and 1. And then here, I'm going to plug in 1. This is 2 plus 1 is 3. So I get the ordered pair 1, 3. Oh, you guys, oh yeah, you can see, okay. And then I'm going to graph it. And you're going to see that these points line up with each other, and then we're going to connect them to make a nice straight line. Okay, your coordinate plane does not need to be that big. Just 4 in each direction is good. I'm going to, if I don't put a scale on it, I'm just assuming that each square is 1 unit. So this will be negative 1 here. 0, 1 is here. And then 1, 3 is here. Notice that they make a nice straight line. A nice straight line. That line represents all the solutions to this linear equation up here. Okay, so if I were to pick any point on that line infinitely in either direction, it would make this equation true. Okay, so this is basically what your homework is tonight. Make sure you use graph paper. So if you need graph paper before you leave, grab it off the back corner counter. Sorry to have to go right to the last minute, you guys. You're welcome. Bye, you guys. Email me if you have any questions.